Hello everyone, I'm ESL teacher Lisa. Today we're going to talk about 10 steps or 10 ways to help you overcome or conquer your fear of speaking in English. Now I've been working with adult ESL students from around the world for 12 plus years now. And this is a common complaint, a common fear, speaking in English. Well, what can help you overcome this fear? I have a PDF with all 10 ways outlined so you can get it as a free download. And this is what I will be referring to. So you can review it after the video or pause the video, download it, and follow along with me. The first thing you need to do, number one, is to acknowledge your fear. Did you know anxiety or stress reduces your brain's ability to process language in real time? And then we're adding new vocabulary, complex grammar. You could feel like your brain is shutting down. Some students describe it as, my brain goes blank. So you have to relax, take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, and remember, no one expects you to speak perfectly when it's not your native language. It's okay to make mistakes, and when you talk to natives, we expect it. So just acknowledge that you're scared. Number two, identify your problem areas. Well, what do I mean by that? When you're not used to speaking in English, your brain needs time to process incoming words. Then to translate them, think of a response, and then translate that. Well, what do you need to work on? Are you struggling more with putting your sentences together or understand what's being said to you in response? So try this. Rather than trying to come up with an answer in your head at the same time as you're trying to listen to the other person, really try to clear your mind and truly listen to what the other person is saying. Take a moment to gather your thoughts and then answer. So you have to put real effort into listening. I just talked about this idea of translating in your head. Many students think this is a bad thing. It's not. It's a natural thing that you're going to do. Well, what else can you do? Of course you have to translate in your mind when you're learning a language. But the more familiar you come with the vocabulary words, the easier it will be, and you'll stop translating. And as you become more familiar with the language and the vocabulary, you'll translate less and less. Let me just give you a quick example. If I say this word to you, cup, did you have to translate it in your head, or did you think of cup immediately? Or what if I said water? Did you have to translate that in your head? Maybe at first as a beginner, but now if you're at an intermediate level, when you hear words that are so familiar, you don't need to translate, you just know what it means. So that's why I say, don't worry about translating in your head. You won't when you start to become more and more fluent and more comfortable in the language. So it's not a bad thing, it's a natural thing. Let's go to number 3. Practice your listening. So if you're relatively inexperienced with English, you won't understand every single word. You may not even understand very many words at all. But working on your listening ability by listening to the radio, TV, or movies, you can use subtitles or closed caption to help you out. You can even turn them on in videos like this. You can improve vocabulary and pronunciation through listening alone, but it's no substitute for real conversation. You still have to converse. It's important to understand that even if you're used to consuming spoken media in the language you're learning, in our case English, your brain will be working much harder during a conversation. So maybe you regularly listen to TV shows, radio, podcasts, and you think, wow, my listening is great. And then suddenly, when you have to have a conversation, you struggle. Why? Because you have to understand your brain works harder in real conversation. So what does that mean? Practice your listening. Number 3 is practice your listening. But also, it's no substitute for having real conversations. Let's go on to point number 4. You have to let go of perfection. You have to let go of perfection. You'll never speak a language fluently without speaking a broken version of it first. The sooner you start talking, the sooner you'll reach a conversational level. It may be frustrating to feel like you're making mistakes, but this will ultimately be outweighed by the reward, by using the language long term. So embrace your mistakes, accept that you are not going to be perfect, and just start speaking as much as you can. This is how you will reach a more conversational level quickly. Number 5, smile. You'll get a much better response if you approach the conversation with a smile. It seems like a small thing, but when you smile, it's natural for the other person to want to smile back at you. So just start with a friendly hello and smile. It actually will relax you and your listener. Could you imagine if I did all my videos and I never smiled? But when I smile at you and I make it natural, it's not a forced smile. It relaxes you and it helps relax your brain, and you can process language a lot better when you're relaxed. Number 6, seek out one-on-one conversations. So it's harder to talk with a group of natives than just one native speaker, because when you have a group of native speakers together and you want to practice your conversation, natives, when they get together, will usually speed up and become more complex. So one-on-one conversations are easier. If you want to speak with a stranger, the key is not to think about it too much. Just start speaking. The longer you think about it, the harder it will be. Just do it. Number 7, control the speed of the conversation. You have to control the speed. Yes, you can control the speed. Well, how do you do that? If you speak slowly and clearly, this should encourage your conversation partner to match your slower rhythm, your lower and slower speaking rhythm. If the person you're speaking with doesn't get the hint, they seem to not adjust their speed, it doesn't hurt for you to politely say, please speak a bit slower. I'm still learning. So that's fine. You have to just tell the listener. So please be aware that it isn't just one person that will control the speed of the conversation. You have the responsibility to slow the conversation down if you need that, especially if you're nervous. Point number 8, don't be discouraged when a conversation doesn't go well. They're not all going to go well. But what I would like you to do is analyze the conversation. Why didn't it go well? Why didn't you understand? Some people you speak with will be more patient than others. Some are more understanding, and some people are just plain rude, and some are simply better at understanding foreign accents. The brain takes time to process an accent or new speech pattern that it's hearing. So be patient with yourself and be prepared to speak slow at first. So if you grew up in a country, as an example, and you never heard a Hindi-speaking person, or you never heard a Farsi-speaking person, or you never heard a Chinese-speaking person, it's going to take the brain time to understand that accent. And once they understand, it gets easier and easier. So the first time they might ask you to repeat, they're just trying to get familiar with your speech pattern. But once you've spoken to the person 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you notice that it's a lot easier. It's very similar to this illustration. Have you ever seen a mom understand her 2-year-old? To you, the 2-year-old is talking nonsense, and the mom understands exactly what they want. Why? Because they've picked up their speech patterns, how they're putting words together, what they mean when they say this thing or that thing. And so it's the same with hearing accents. With an individual, a specific individual person's speech pattern and accent, after a while, you get used to hearing it, and you know when they say this word, even though it isn't perfect, you know what they mean. So just be patient. Number 9, practice basic everyday conversations. That may seem obvious, but practice everyday conversations. Let's not lose the whole main purpose of this video. It's to help you overcome your fear. So practicing everyday conversations will help. Many of the same conversations come up again and again in everyday life. Dining out, ordering a coffee, talking with your neighbor, going shopping, these types of interactions. So practice them. These should be the first conversation types that you master, everyday English conversations. People are also likely to be patient with you if they're selling something to you. So often trying to speak to a salesman or someone in a store could be a good way to practice. When native speakers find out you're learning English, they'll probably ask you where you're from, why are you learning English, and it's a good opportunity for you to practice because you'll get these questions a lot. Once people notice you have an accent. Oh, where are you from? What country were you born in? So these kind of conversations, once you get better at them and more comfortable, will boost your confidence. And then you can move on to more complicated conversations onto broader topics. And our last one, point number 10, visit places where the language is spoken as often as you can. So we're talking about English. So try to immerse yourself as much as you can in your environment. You might have to go to where tourists are to speak English. Maybe you can take a language study trip. Maybe you can learn English for 4 weeks in an English-speaking country, for example. Again, maybe there are certain areas where there are people who are more fluent at English that you can practice with, but just try to maybe visit places where you can hear English or practice. If you can't, if some people really are in situations where they don't have native speakers, not even native speakers, just people who want to speak English, then you'll have to just go virtual online. You can find group conversation classes, hire a private tutor. Maybe you have a relative that's willing to chat with you online so you can practice. As long as they're at the same level or higher level than you can definitely practice that way too. Hopefully this was helpful. If you want these tips in a little bit more detail, you can go ahead and click the link. It's a free download. It's a 3-page worksheet or PDF that takes you through all these steps. Please leave in the comments if you've been successful at trying any one of these, and I wish you well. And remember, the secret to becoming a more fluent speaker is to speak more. Please remember to like the video, share the video, or comment. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.